All right, welcome to today's lesson. And today's lesson is about background knowledge. In this lesson, you're going to learn how to, when you're reading something, how to fully engage with that thing so that you know how to understand what it is you're reading, how to prepare yourself to read something so that you can fully understand it and grasp it. We're also going to talk about why sometimes when we read something, we don't understand it. Why is that when we pick up something, sometimes we don't understand it? In terms of writing, you're going to learn how to build some background information regarding your writing. So, if you read or write, this is all connected. So, let's talk about background knowledge. But first, I have a question for you. Have you ever had to read something but had no idea what it was all about? I want you to think about that for a second. Have you ever actually had to read something but you had no idea what it was all about? Or have you ever had to engage in something and you weren't sure, what the whole, not that you didn't fully understand the text itself, but you didn't have enough information regarding the whole situation or regarding the background information. So go ahead and pause the video and I want you to think about it. Think about a time where you had that happen to you. All right, good. So now let's move on. So let's talk a little bit about background knowledge. What is background knowledge? Background knowledge has to do with what the text itself is about. Not only that, it's about the background information regarding what it is you're reading. So when you read something, there's more depth to what you're reading than what you're just reading in front of you. There's background information you need to know. For example, if you were to read Shakespeare, the reason why a lot of people don't understand Shakespeare is because they don't have enough background information. So a lot of times when people teach Shakespeare, sometimes some teachers might not give you enough background information because they don't know that you don't know enough. For example, if you're going to read William Shakespeare, then you need to know the language, right? You need to know how to understand that language before you even start reading. You need to know a little bit about the history of Shakespeare, the history of that time period, so you can understand the culture, right? So you can understand the text. So why is background knowledge important? Because without background knowledge to what it is you're reading or to whatever you're going to write about, you're going to have a hard time understanding it. And this is one of the kind of the secrets of reading is to prepare yourself for reading and to prepare yourself for the writing by getting the background information. So if you ever find yourself stuck, there could be a few reasons, but one of the reasons is that you might not have enough information, background information about what you're reading about. So you need to get the background information before you read or write about a topic. So in this lesson, you're going to practice how to get background knowledge. So before we move on, I want to talk to you about something before we get to the background knowledge. I want to ask you a question. When do we not understand a text? Now, there's a lot of reasons, but I'm going to focus on three today. The first one, when I go through these reasons, I want you to know that it's not always about you. It's just about the issue. It's about your connection with what you're reading or what you're writing about. Why you might not understand it and why you might not be able to write about it. The first one is that it's over your head. Just simply the text is just beyond what you know about. It has too much vocabulary that you don't know what it means. It has too much information that you're just not ready. For example, if you're at a level 1 in math, you can't do a level 10, right? You can't do calculus if you don't know algebra. So reading is the same way and writing is the same way. If you're going to read about a topic or write about a topic, if it's over your head, you're going to have a problem. So you got to make sure what you read is within your capabilities or in your range, that just maybe challenges you a little bit, but not challenges you to the point where you just totally don't understand it. So if you find yourself you're not understanding it, you need to maybe read something else about the same topic that you understand more. The second reason is it doesn't pique our interest. So sometimes things just aren't interesting enough for us. But the warning here is that a lot of times in life and in college and when you're doing different activities, and you have to read stuff that you might not be interested in. You have to write about topics you're not interested in. So that's sort of a double-edged sword here, which is sometimes when you're not interested in it, you may have trouble understanding it. But at the same time, sometimes you have to fight that and still read what you're interested in. Still read something that you're not interested in, just for the sake of, just becoming better at the topic, at any topic. And finally, it's not enough background knowledge, and that's what I want to talk about today. You just don't have it. The text is fine, and you might be interested in it, but you don't have enough background information about the text. And before we do that, I want to talk, because you're going to need to know something about this, what I'm going to go over right now before you start on the activity. I want to talk to you about the different types of questions, because that's going to help you do this activity. So let's talk a little bit about the different types of questions that we need to ask ourselves about text or about what we're writing about. So first of all, there are two types of questions that you need to know for this course. There are two. Can you think of what the two types of questions might be? Go ahead. I'll go ahead and pause. Just think about. Just reflect. What two types of questions are there? All right, good. So I just want you to explore a little bit there and think about it. So let's go over them now. The first one is factual. So the first type of question is a factual question. For example, what is the color of the sky? How old are you? How old was William Shakespeare when he wrote Romeo and Juliet? Where was Romeo and Juliet set? These are just factual questions that it's just a 1 + 1 = 2, a yes or no, answer, and that's important to know. Then there's a different type of question. Can you think of what type of question that is? A non-factual question, okay? Non-factual question. So it's something that is not necessarily fact, it's more of a perspective, maybe an opinion, maybe a perspective backed up by some support. So it's more of like just exploration, investigation, putting all these pieces together to come up with an answer. And sometimes that answer has many answers, okay? So there's two different types of questions. Factual, which might have one answer, or what I'm calling non-factual, there are many names for it, which is, can have many answers. So when you do this activity, I'm going to ask you to think of factual and non-factual questions. So keep that in your mind as you proceed with this activity. I'm going to go ahead and pause here. I want you to look through this link that I'm going to post in just a second. And I want you to look at, there's going to be about 5 numbers on that page, but I just want you to read number 1, which is factual. That's the first topic. And I want you to read the third one, which is called divergent. Just those are the two types of questions I'm talking about. Number 1, factual. Number 3, divergent. And I'm going to post a link right now. So go ahead and read that and then come back. Okay, now can you give me an example of a factual question and a perspective or non-factual question? So go ahead and think about that now. Give me an example of a factual question, an example of a non-factual question. Go. All right, good. So now I want to demonstrate this activity which you're about to do now, okay, which you're going to build background knowledge on a topic, okay, before you actually start reading the topic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead to some of the blogs, some of the blog articles that the class chose. I'm going to look through some of them, pick a few here. All right, let's get some articles here. All right, so I found one here, and this was, forgot who chose this one, but I'm going to post it right here. It's called How Yoga Helped Me Find Peace with My Body, Mind, and Spirit. Let me demonstrate to you right now the activity that you're about to do, okay? So here's an article. You didn't have to read it just yet. I didn't ask you to read it, right? But here's the article in front of you. What I want you to do here, in connection with finding background knowledge, is that if we look at this title or this article, just by looking at the title, I don't have to read this article yet. Just by looking at the title, can you tell me what things or topics you should probably know a little bit about for you to understand this article? Go ahead, pause the video and tell me. Okay, good. So if you said you probably need to know a little bit about yoga, maybe the mind and the spirit, you're on the right track, something like that. The two topics that you probably need to have some idea about or know a little bit more so you can fully grasp this article is the mind, the spirit, and yoga. So I'm going to choose yoga and the spirit. Those are two things that I want to find some background knowledge about before I totally dig into this article. Now, you don't have to do this for every article you read. This is just to practice, the idea of, when you see an article or something you have to read, there's information you don't know, and you need to dig into that information. You need to build some ground, some foundation before you build on writing something or reading something. Especially in college, when it's about a lot of topics, when a lot of articles about topics you don't even know about. So the yoga and the spirit. Okay, so now we found the two topics that we need to dig in to understand this article. Now, I'm going to ask you for each topic to come up with 5 questions for each topic. Now, for the 5, so that's a total of, for reading one article, that's 2 topics per article, and that's 5 questions per topic. For one article, that's 10 questions. So for the first topic, which is yoga, for example, I'll come up with 5 questions. Now, 2 of the questions I want them to be, or 3 of the questions, they could be factual, and 2 will be non-factual. So when you come up with the questions, I want 3 of them to be factual, and then 2 of them to be non-factual. For example, for the first part, how yoga helped me. Okay, so now we're going to talk about yoga. So I'm going to go ahead and jot down a couple of questions here. The first, for the topic yoga, so I'm going to take this article, put it here, and then topic number 1, yoga. And then my first question for factual, which means I have to ask a question that's just yes or no. So what is yoga? That's my first question. What is yoga, first of all, right? Because this article is not telling me about yoga, and it's just giving me some general idea. I want to dig into some of the information. That's a factual, right? I mean, if you ask what is yoga, there can't be like 10 million answers. I mean, there could be different answers, but for the most part, yoga is what it is. The second one is, where does yoga come from? A factual question. So I'm asking things that I'm wondering about. How old is yoga? Like, I don't know, is it from when? 10 years, 100 years? How old is yoga? So these are my 3 factual questions. Now I'm going to come up with 2 non-factual questions. How can yoga help you? Okay? Or what are the different types of yoga exercises? And how do they affect the body? So you see the way I'm coming up, or here's another one. What are the main pillars of yoga? Now I asked here 6 questions, but you only have to do 5. Again, 3 that are factual and then 2 that are non-factual, but I'm just demonstrating to you. I'm asking questions I'm wondering about, the topic, things that I'm curious about, okay? So now you're going to do the same thing with the spirit, or if you were to choose this article, right? You're not going to choose this article, but so yoga, and then I'll do the same thing, spirit, okay? And for the article, okay? So that's what you're gonna do. This is about exploring background information regarding the article. What is the background information? Let me understand something about the roots before I start reading. All right, so now it's your turn to do the action steps. Now, what you're gonna do is, for right now, you're going to do this for 2 articles. First, you're going to come up with the article number 1. You're going to write down the 2 topics, yoga and the spirit. And then for every topic, which is, you're only going to choose 2 topics, you'll have 5 questions, making sure 3 are factual, 2 are non-factual, and you're going to do the same for the second topic. Then you're going to do the same for 1 more article. So you're going to do this for 2 articles. Remember now, that's a total of 20 questions altogether. All right, so take your time in doing this. Just come up with the questions. This should take you some time if you do this right. Okay, so go ahead and choose your articles and go ahead and get started right now. Go. All right, good. So now that you're done with that, the next thing is I want you to go ahead into the last prompt. You should see it below the video. Go to the last prompt, and now what I want you to do is actually I find information on Google to answer each question. So I want you to answer all the questions that you asked. The purpose of this is for you to actually explore how to do some research and get some background knowledge regarding the topic. So you might do something simple, like say I'm taking for the first question, what is yoga? I might put that in Google, what is yoga? And I'll look through until I find something that resonates as the answer. Now, the first two questions won't be that hard because they're factual, but the last two are going to be a little different. Like, how can yoga help you? So that's going to be different because if I search that, there's going to be so many different topics. So you might look through some videos, get some answers. So you're going to do that and just come up with your own paragraph and jot it down. So I want you to find a way to actually just research and explore and jot down the answers. So you're answering all the questions. So you can go ahead into the prompt and go ahead and edit it and answer all the questions. Now, if this gets too much in the prompt, what you can do is go ahead and do it in a Google Doc and just paste the link to the Google document instead of doing it right into the prompt. You can actually just paste the link to your Google Doc right into the prompt if the information will be too much, okay? So go ahead and do that now. You have to answer all the questions, all right? Go. And when you're done with that, you're wrapped up. Just take your time with this because this is graded.